Hello, everybody. Welcome into the NBA Front Office Show. Happy Wednesday. Today, we've got plenty of things to talk about. We've got the conclusion of the NBA Cup, the Bucks, the surprising upset win last night. We'll talk about that. We've got the Nuggets, their trade interest getting out there. De'Aaron Fox making comments about his long-term future in Sacramento. We got to talk about the G League Showcase, what that means for the trade market, all kinds of things to get into on today's show. So make sure you do subscribe to the channel. If you're not a subscriber yet, hit that subscribe button and then follow us over on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts. I'm Trevor Lane, joined by Keith Smith. Keith, the Bucks, we both said it was going to be the Thunder. The Bucks shocked the world. Darvin Ham's record remains immaculate, at least in the NBA Cup. What are your thoughts on the Bucks taking home the trophy?
I thought they played really well. I thought they did a good job of shutting off Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Jalen Williams as far as being creators. And if you can do that, the Thunder are going to struggle to score. I put this on Twitter this morning in Blue Sky. I think I put it on Blue Sky, but at least on Twitter. That I don't want to go too far. Too much of the discussion since last night into this morning has been, well, I guess the Thunder aren't actually good.
Right.
What are we doing? It's one game, right? And it's also funny that these people who screamed and yelled that this game doesn't mean anything and this cup is made up and it's nonsense now want to apply a lot of the overarching sweeping narrative to this
to one game.
It's this is why the NBA playoffs are great, because you can have one bad game and still win a series, right? It's great. The NCAA tournament, the NFL playoffs that are single game eliminations. There's great things about each side of it, but anyway, to go to the Bucks though, they did a great job shutting that down. Giannis was, he was undeniable last night. He was going to get to where he wanted to go. You saw the Thunder's lack of interior defense, struggle at times. If it wasn't Isaiah Hartenstein, they didn't have much that they could do to stop it. Brook Lopez felt like anytime the Thunder get any momentum, Brook Lopez hit a big shot. And then Damian Lillard played well also. You're starting to see more Lillard-Giannis actions together, which is good for Milwaukee.
That's encouraging.
They're really on a hot streak right now. They're playing really, really good basketball in this. And then on the Thunder side, they shot terribly. If they had shot just normal bad, it would have been a game. And they didn't. And I want to say there was something like 2 of 20 on uncontested jumpers from behind the arc. They're not a great shooting team, but that's not going to repeat.
They're not that.
My mentions are filled with people trying to make trades to fix the Thunder now. And there's things they could improve for sure. I think they need another on-ball creator. They would have been a nice spot for Dennis Schroeder.
Sure.
But they're okay. They're going to get Chet Holmgren back. They'll be all right.
Yeah, I think they're going to be just fine. By the way, I'm going through I'm pulling up the box score right now, and it's my reminder that, oh my God, there's no games tonight.
Yeah. Yes.
That's such a bummer. No games on tonight. But yes, your point is correct on the shooting of the Thunder. Look, this is part of why, and this is a conversation we'll have another day, but why some people say the 3-point shot is overvalued in today's NBA, or is too powerful, or maybe people are shooting too many threes now. But you look, that's it. There's the game. The Thunder shot 16% from 3, and I got to round up to get there. Ball game. You can't win in today's NBA if you shoot 16%. You have a bad shooting night from 3, game over. There's not much else, or at least I should say all but game over. I mean, you're going to lose almost every time if you shoot that poorly from deep. And they didn't shoot an insanely high volume for today's NBA, 32 attempts, even though in the past that would be high volume. But today's league, that's not that high. But 34% from the field. It was a bad shooting night for the Thunder. I think they are better than what we saw, but you also have to give the Bucks credit for playing well the way that they did. Big picture, Keith, I think there's a couple of things that we need to note here. Number one being, I think this game was more evidence that maybe you need to take the Cup final away from Vegas. Maybe the semi. We talked about the semifinal yesterday, but the crowd last season, the NBA enjoyed the Lakers being there, and Vegas is very much a Lakers town, and so you were going to get that loud reaction. And Vegas is drivable from LA and all of that. When it's the Thunder and it's the Bucks, the reaction was very, very different. And I think that was an unfortunate piece to this. So that's something I think the NBA needs to really look at. And Adam Silver did talk about that, saying that that's something that they are indeed looking at doing. But then the other thing was the Bucks, perhaps with some, some prodding from Darvin Ham, who has experience winning the NBA Cup, decided not to celebrate the way the NBA wanted them to. The NBA wanted the iconic locker room or post-game celebration, the champagne and all that kind of stuff. And that's what the Lakers did last year. And then the Lakers they had a huge energy drop-off for weeks afterwards, where you could just tell their focus was not there. I think it ultimately was the end of their season. Effectively, it undid their season. And so the Bucks said, we don't want to do that again. We're not going to celebrate like we won a championship, and made that choice. But is that what the NBA, does that devaluing the cup? That's the other thing that I thought was interesting, that the NBA had the whole room set up and tarped off and everything. And the Bucks said, nah, no, thank you.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be the reality of it. It's going to take years for this to take on the meaning that the league wants it to take on. And it's in the Bucks, the core members of that team won a title just a few years ago. So for them, this is just something else, right? I think the Lakers did their thing because it was the first one, right? So it was like, hey, let's, we won the first one. They'll forever be, if this thing's still going 50 years from now, the Lakers will forever be the first winners of the NBA Cup. Like, it is what it is. So yeah, I am with you. I'm sure the league wasn't overly thrilled. But if this is still going 50 years from now, teams will go celebrate and you'll raise the trophy and do whatever they do. I mean, we see it. You only need look at other sports where these things are ingrained, whether it be soccer or European basketball, where these things have been around for years and years. They really do care. Like they really do care about winning these things. So to go back to something you said before, the Bucks did not shoot good from 2-point range either. They only shot 44% on twos. So it was just an awful offensive night. I think they only had 13 total assists on the game as well, which the assist number will be low when you shoot that poorly, but it was like less than half of their baskets were assisted. So that's not a great sign either. The Bucks just did a wonderful job of cutting off anything that they wanted to do. I would argue 5 of 32, the number there, and no one's going to like hearing this, or very few are, the number there, that's the problem. It's not the 5, it's the 32. Should have shot more of them. You weren't making anything inside either. You should have keep shooting them. They'll eventually go in. Water will find its level. That is a big chunk of how Boston beats teams. They just eventually, they're going to trust that eventually they're going to go in. Once every 7-8 games, they don't, and they tend to get beat. And that's something that happens. Maybe that's all this was for the Thunder. But yeah, I mean, 17-5 and made 3-point margin. You're not going to win a game. That's your margin there. Like, it's just not going to get done. But I mean, I'm glad you pulled the Bucks side of this. I mean, look at that Giannis line. 26 points, 19 rebounds, 10 assists, 2 steals, 3 blocks.
Yeah, unreal.
Like, he was just unstoppable. They had no answer for him, and they tried everybody on him throughout the course of this game, and they just couldn't find anybody who could do anything with him. So, kudos to Doc Rivers. I think he's really simplified the offense. I think he has really gone to stuff that worked for this Bucks team in the past defensively. A lot more drop coverage is being used, a lot less switching there. They still do some switching, and really good teams will catch them. Thought the Thunder got a little impatient at times, forcing switches and the like. But, bad game for OKC. It kind of is what it is. Great game for Milwaukee, and congratulations to them.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a good spot to land for that. All right, let's get into some of the latest news going on around the trade front. That's that Denver might have interest in Zach LaVine, Brandon Ingram. They're looking for a bit more scoring punch, but interesting that they may use Michael Porter. Well, would have to for these guys, essentially, unless they just suddenly decide they want to, do something crazy like trade Jokic or are willing to move on from Jamal Murray or something like that. Otherwise, they would.
Well, I'd have to check. I don't know if Jamal Murray's even trade eligible this year because of the extension. I'd have to look.
I do. Let me pull that up right
He
now.
may
So we
be. I
can.
know Aaron Gordon is not.
Aaron Gordon
I
is
can't
not.
remember off the top of my head
Jamal
when
Murray
Murray
is trade, at least
Okay.
according
All
to
right.
Spot Track, which is
Yeah.
what I'm
Yeah. We should be
going
on
off of
that.
here.
So,
He is trade
yep.
eligible. So,
Okay. Yeah. But
um,
they're not going to trade Jamal Murray.
yeah, right. That's it exactly. So Michael Porter Jr. could be the vehicle that would land them LaVine or Brandon Ingram. Essentially, there were other names that were put out there by the Athletic, including Jordan Clarkson, Jordan Poole, Jonas Valanciunas as a backup big for them. The bottom line, though, when we look at Clarkson, Poole, Murray, or I'm sorry, Porter Jr., players like that, Ingram, they're looking for more firepower and they're looking to add somebody else who can do something with the ball, create their own shot, which Michael Porter
Yep.
Jr. is more of a movement shooter. And I don't think Denver's wrong for doing that. What's interesting is because they understand how limited their future draft capital is, they're looking at doing it by taking on essentially distressed assets, players who are not valued around the league because of their contracts, but not because of their play. They're good players. They will help you win basketball games. You can argue both those guys may be better than Michael Porter Jr. Again, you can argue it, but you could argue both those guys are better than Michael Porter Jr. But their contract situation is why teams are not willing to trade for them. But from Denver's perspective, given their limited draft capital, that's the kind of player they kind of have to kick the tires on because they're guys that you could conceivably get without having to give up a lot of future assets.
Yeah, absolutely. And the LaVine idea, I don't mind for them all that much. I see the vision of playing LaVine and Murray and Jokic as kind of your core offensive piece. You can always probably have two of those three on the floor at all times.
Sure.
They still have these droughts, especially in the non-Jokic minutes where things can get a little sideways. I mean, Denver, I looked it up to make sure that this was still true. They're fifth in offense right now in offensive rating. So it's not like they're a bad offensive team.
No.
But I think what they're looking toward is the postseason when teams can really dial in. And yeah, there's really not much you can do to stop Jokic. That's the old you can't stop him, so you can only hope to contain him, right? That's what that is. But we have seen Jamal Murray more often than not in recent years. He just kind of can't get it going some nights and goes missing a little bit. And that's where it kind of turns into, all right, well, who else? And like you said, Porter Jr. he's more of like a 1-2 dribble, get a shot up guy. He's not going to create some stuff. Aaron Gordon has become much more, even in his Orlando time, he's a play finisher versus a play, maker. So, that's, something there. And then a lot of that ends up falling to Russell Westbrook. And I'm sure they would rather not have that be the way it goes because we know what's going to happen in the playoffs. Teams are just going to drop off him and be like, shoot, go ahead. And if it's the one night where you make 8 out of 10 jump shots and we lose, we'll tip our cap and dare you to do it again 2 nights from now in game 2 or whatever it is, right? So I get why you'd go for LaVine. The Brandon Ingram interest is interesting because at least that's more of a Porter replacement. Because I do worry if you go for a LaVine or somebody like that, you're going to be very small then, right? Because there are moments where they go to, especially when they're playing good teams, Gordon at the 5, Porter at the 4, and they kind of move forward. So yeah, I really don't know what to make of this as much, but yeah, it'll be very interesting at the very least to see how does that all come together.
Well, and I think that Ingram is more of a shot creator for himself and others, certainly than Porter Jr. is. So you get that from him. He has increased his 3-point volume. Now he's hurt right now, but he has increased his 3-point volume this season. So that's something that would be useful to this Denver team. Zach LaVine, another guy. Denver is bottom of the NBA in 3-point attempts. You mentioned they're 5th in offensive rating. Impressive that they're doing that in this day and age, despite shooting 30.4 threes. I mean, they're shooting way less than anybody else from deep.
Yeah.
This would potentially give you more, although, Michael Porter Jr. is going to be one of your high. I don't have the volume in front of me, but he's got to be one of their higher volume 3-point shooters. Anyway, but it's interesting that this is what Denver's looking at, and this is probably the way they have to go. And then if you're the Bulls, if you're the Pelicans, if you're the Bulls, you can say, well, we're turning a 29-year-old Zach LaVine into what is Porter Jr., 26? Something like that. So you're closer to Porter Jr. being part of, and same thing with the Pelicans, a slightly younger player. You're closer to Porter Jr. being part of your future if you're the Bulls. And then with the Pelicans, you have cost certainty built in because
Yep.
Porter Jr. is under contract. Essentially, Michael Porter Jr.'s contract is the deal they would like to give Brandon Ingram that Ingram doesn't want. That's what they would. So you're getting you're just switching at the player. You're going from Ingram to Porter Jr., but he's on the contract that the Pelicans want Brandon Ingram to take from them. So
Yep.
I think there's incentive on all sides to do something like this. Now, whether or not something actually gets done, you never know, but it makes sense when the rest of the NBA, the trade market has said, we're out on Zach LaVine, we're out on Brandon Ingram to this point, that Denver says, well, maybe there's an opportunity here for us to buy kind of on the cheap.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what's interesting is that group of names. The Valanciunas one doesn't super make sense to me, right? Unless like it is like, hey, we can just snag this guy for Zeke Naji and not much else, and we feel good about that. Because like come playoff time, what's he gonna play? 10 minutes at most?
Right.
You're gonna play him and Jokic together. You wouldn't be able to craft a decent enough defense. So that really becomes why. Like, what is the point of that? That doesn't make sense. I looked it up on Basketball Reference. So Denver's 3-point attempt rate. So that is the percentage of their total field goals that are from 3-point range. So Boston leads the league with a ridiculous 56.1. So they are taking 56% of their shots as threes. The Bulls are next, tied with the Hornets, both at 48%. So the Celtics are like blowing away the league in that. But Denver is at 33.9%. Toronto's next up, 35.9. Then you get to New Orleans, 37.2. And then you start getting into teams that are 5 percentage points or more higher than the Nuggets. So to your point, it's really incredible that their offense is as good as it is when they take so few threes. But that's the brilliance of Jokic, right? Like that is what it is, right? Like he is getting them great shots on the vast majority of their trips by simply putting them in position to get good buckets around the rim more often than not. So I get why, though. Again, let's try to diversify a little bit, right? Because I think what teams will say with Jokic, and we've seen this in the past to some extent, fine, you know what? We're not going to let you carve us up. You shoot then. You shoot. Like you shoot it 35 times tonight. Like we're going to stay locked into the other 4 guys. And if we got to give up something, we'll give up you taking a bunch of shots because it's just not how he wants to play himself.
Exactly. And that it's the old, complete opposite position, but it's the Steve Nash strategy, right?
Yeah.
Make Steve Nash a scorer. Don't let him be the facilitator that gets everybody else going. Last thing I've got on this, I do think part of this too is you look at where the assists are coming from for the Nuggets this season. You've got Russell Westbrook pretty up. I give him credit, but there will be games in the postseason where you go, I don't know if this is the right scenario for Russ. Oh no, now we need more shot creation. And so I think it's a hedge against that as well. Okay, let's jump over here. Let's head over to Sacramento. Let's talk about De'Aaron Fox. So De'Aaron Fox did an interview on the Draymond Green podcast, I believe it was. And he talked about how he wants to retire in Sacramento, but he wants to win. That's the most important thing. So that coming out now, the trade deadline, inching closer, February 6th is the trade deadline, suggests that De'Aaron Fox would like the Kings to do something, would like them to change something, because right now they are outside of the play-in the Western Conference. Now, I think they've been better than what their record necessarily suggests. They've had a few tough losses. They lost just recently to the Denver Nuggets just the other night. DeMar DeRozan missed a shot basically at the buzzer to win it. But I do think the Kings are better than what their record suggests. I don't think they are, in terms of their quality, I don't think they are a non-playoff team. I think they're better than that. But they're 13-14 on the season. And with the trade deadline coming, it makes sense, especially De'Aaron Fox has this year under contract and next year he's extension eligible this summer, and then he becomes a free agent. And so he already didn't do the extension with the Kings at this point. We're kind of getting to the point where if we hit this summer and he's still not willing to sign the extension, then Sacramento has kind of got to start exploring trades. So this is a big trade deadline and a big remainder of the season for the Kings and their relationship with De'Aaron Fox. If he's making it clear that while he wants to be a King, winning is his priority. And if he doesn't feel like if he can do that in Sacramento, then I mean, we could be looking at a change coming here.
Yeah, I didn't get worked up when he didn't sign the extension last offseason because he had 2 years left. He would have only been able to do a 3-year extension because he wasn't qualified to do the Supermax extension or anything like that. So less money, only 3 years. It made sense to wait, delay, see if this year you make All NBA, then maybe you qualify for that Supermax. That was kind of the Jaylen Brown approach a couple years ago. Now we get into this offseason. Let's just say, you know, there is a slight potential De'Aaron Fox could say, you know what, I'm going to give it one more year and then I will try to extend again, or not extend, but sign a new contract for the Supermax as a designated player contract versus extension. That is also allowed. But at that point, it's kind of like, well, you know, if you're not there. Now, where it sets off a huge red flag is De'Aaron Fox makes All NBA this year, and if the Kings turned it around, not completely out of the realm of possibility, and then doesn't extend, that's when, much like I said, or I guess 2 years ago now about Jaylen Brown, put up the flashing red warning lights and, go crazy because that means he's probably out like that because you cannot get $1 more anywhere else. There's no reason to wait. That's if he makes All NBA this year going into the offseason. So that's the kind of tricky part here. So that part doesn't bother me, but I get where he's coming from, right? He's 27. So he's looking at it and saying, all right, I'd like to win, right? Like I don't want to be 33 years old and I've never won. And now I'm leaving, going to look for a team, right? I want to win while I'm in my prime and I can help drive, winning and all that kind of stuff there. So I think we talk about this all the time. It's the superstar, right? Just putting a little bit of pressure on the organization to say, hey, you can't sit on your laurels here and just have me be loyal. That's, I mixed those two words up.
No loyalty for laurels.
Yeah, that's it.
No laurels for loyalty? Yeah. I don't know.
Loyal, laurel. Yeah, I don't know. Those are a lot of words that sound the same. To basically say, hey, keep making the team better, right? Like we can't just sit back and do nothing. And I get it. They did, right? They tried. They got Malik Monk to resign. They went on and got DeMar DeRozan. But I think this is a little, hey, Kevin Huerter's not playing so great. Can we move him for somebody who's more helpful? Maybe a defensive-minded big to help pair with Sabonis or something like that if we want to go. So, yeah, it's I think De'Aaron Fox is doing what superstars do.
Yeah, exactly. And we'll see where this goes. We'll see if this does spark some activity from the Kings. I think all the advanced metrics show that they are, it's been rough for Kevin Huerter with them on the floor. They've been a lot better without him. Yeah. All right. Let's jump over here. NBA franchise valuations rising. This is a big positive, right? For NBA teams, the value of their teams just keep going up and up and up. Keith, it's a not a bad investment if you happen to have some coin to drop on an NBA team.
Afford it, why not? You should.
Yeah, why not?
Right? Yeah, why not? If anybody wants to give us the money, we'll buy one. Heck,
sure.
We'll
why not? Yeah. Hey, move over LeBron. The front office show brings the NBA to Las Vegas.
I did think it was very interesting. No, I want the Seattle team. I want
the Seattle team.
Yeah.
Would you, if you could live one place, would you pick Vegas or Seattle?
Seattle. 100%.
Yeah, you pick Seattle. The rain, you would deal with the rain and all that.
Oh yeah, give me the sea. I say that now until it's the first winter, and I'm like, all right, I changed my mind. I want.
Never mind. Let me go to. It gets cold in Vegas too.
Yeah, it does. It does get cold there. Yeah, I don't know. It's weird. I've always had this thing in my mind that I'm gonna live in Seattle at some point. It's starting to not probably ever have a chance of happening. And I'm sure my wife does not like that idea very much. She does not enjoy the cold, so that would be a problem. She's making a face right now listening to back to the topic at hand here. Interesting. This was from Sportico. Put these I don't know if they put the valuations together themselves Forbes does a version of this too. It always seems a little nebulous with this stuff, but
Sure.
Warriors now the second most valuable franchise in North American sports behind the Dallas Cowboys. So
Yeah.
they moved up past a couple teams on this list. What's interesting is you've got the Warriors, the Knicks, the Lakers, the Nets, and the Clippers are the top five. Clippers and Celtics are tied. Part of the reason the Celtics a little lower, they don't own or control the building that they're in. So that's a major factor as part of this, because I don't think this separates the if you own the building out from that. So, but that's why they might be a little bit lower. Clippers, obviously, the state of the art building that just opened.
Mhm.
And then all the rest of the teams, if they don't own it, they're the primary tenant of the building there that they work with. So, but yeah, I mean, I would say this feels pretty good if you're, Celtics owners trying to sell the team for a reported $6 billion, because this is what it's worth, but you also pay something to be a part of the club, right? You're buying one of 30 memberships in a very exclusive club
Mhm.
to own. So that would be part of it. And I think it's good for the NBA if they're looking for expansion prices that approach $5 or $6 billion per team, because now they're basically saying, hey, that puts you're not going to be necessarily valued at that, but that's what we got to get to give these guys to give up a chunk of their 30 slices of pie to cut it two more ways. So it's I would say this is nothing but good news for the NBA.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. This is, good for players, good for organizations, and yeah, off we go. Just keep growing. Keep growing. Even as, people talk about ratings being down and all that, but that I think gets muddied a little bit when we get into streaming and a much bigger
Sure.
topic that we'll
Yeah.
go into it another day.
And
But
Adam Silver had a lot of comments on that yesterday or the day before. I think it was yesterday.
yeah,
Tim Bontemps of ESPN did a good kind of wrap up on it. One of the things Adam Silver mentioned is there's a lot of ways people consume NBA content.
yeah,
And I think what he was getting at is like, hey, we know a lot of people stream this stuff illegally, and we'd rather they didn't, but they do. And to some extent, they're at least watching, right? So, like, and then they have their million other things that they do where they kind of they measure like what engagements on social and
sure.
all that other stuff
They do
with
so well on
that.
social.
Yeah, of real interest to us, he did get asked about expansion, and he
Mhm.
did say like it's not off the table, but it's not a priority at the moment. So I think just saying let's breathe for a minute here, but again, it's coming. It's just going to be not any. It was funny after the TV deal. I had so many people like, so we're going to get new teams within what, like a year or two, and I was always like, no, probably 3 to 5 years.
It's gonna
You'll
take a while.
hear about the teams, and then it's probably going to be another year to 2 years after that before we actually see them.
Don't start mapping out who your team is protecting in the expansion draft
Correct.
just yet.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just
Just
yet.
yet. Yeah. Give it a little bit more time.
All right. Last thing we've got the G League Showcase is this week. And Keith, obviously the G League Showcase in and of itself is a big deal, but it's also a big deal that this is also when a lot of team personnel,
Yep.
decision makers, and such tend to come together. And what happens when they get together? Oh, they talk trade. It's the way that it goes. So
Yeah.
I would expect plenty of trade intel to be coming out from the G League Showcase.
Yeah, we're going to get a ton of those empty the notebook pieces here within the next week. You'll have to cover them because I'm not going to see them. I'll be on the on my vacation on a cruise ship when these start dropping towards the end of this week here. But does kind of spark it. Everybody kind of says this is like the NBA's version of the MLB winter meetings,
Uh-huh.
which is not always does a lot get done, but at least gets the conversations going. And it's sometimes a little easier to be like, hey, let's really sit down and hash these things out in person. Right. We'll grab a coffee or a beer and we'll sit down and work out, where are we at, who's off the table, who's on the table, what are you really offering with this? Because again, as you get closer to the trade deadline, it gets harder because it's the clock starts ticking. So this is more, hey, let's have a little bit of a theoretical discussion on, hey, if I'm calling about player X, am I wasting time? I
Yeah.
am. Great. then let's not mess around with that. Let's talk, who could be available. And yeah, it's a great. And then the basketball part of it is, quite frankly, as far as the NBA is concerned, pretty secondary. But this is where a lot of guys tend to show up and show out and earn 10-day call-ups, sometimes two-way contracts, because right in the beginning of January is when two-way movement happens, because two-way contracts guarantee. So we'll start seeing some of that as well, based off of this. And then 10-day contracts can start on January 5th. So we'll start seeing some 10-day deals get signed as well. And that's just important for the players that are actually playing in the showcase to show. That's why we saw like Frank Kaminsky signed with a team here. I'm forgetting
Dennis Smith Jr.
And then somebody else, and now Devontae Graham was the other one. So those three veteran NBA guys all signed with teams, because it's all right. Hey, I'm here. I can get in front of NBA decision makers and hopefully play well and show them, all right, this is what I can do to try to help your team moving forward on a 10-day call-up. And veteran players signing 10-day contracts has become a thing. When I first started like really being a fan and following the transaction game, you never saw a veteran guy sign a 10-day. That was like no chance. I mean, they're signing a rest of the season contract or nothing. Veteran guys sign 10 days all the time now, where it is, hey, that's how I'll prove to you I can still play. And like Isaiah Thomas did it a couple times and turned it into rest of the season contracts for himself.
Yeah.
So we may see that could be a Devontae Graham or Dennis Smith Jr. or Frank Kaminsky could do that. A couple people asked about Markelle Fultz. Everything I've heard, this has also been reported by others, he's not really ready to go yet. He's having a knee thing that he's trying to work back from. So I don't know that we're going to see Markelle Fultz this year. Wouldn't shock me if it happens later, but it just doesn't seem to be right now. So, but yeah, I'm looking forward to kind of seeing that intel. I'll be feverishly old school watching Sports Center in NBA Today while I'm on my our cruise.
Are you not going to have the Wi-Fi package?
No, I'm not. It's so, the Wi-Fi is so unreliable on the ships, and I'll be completely honest. I do not want to be tethered to anything. Like I really want to try to walk away as much as I can.
Okay.
So, I'm trying to be good, right? It's a Christmas family trip, so I'm trying to be a reasonable father to make up for the other 51 weeks a year that I'm not a very good dad.
I will be at my sister's place for right before Christmas here, and yeah, I'll probably be covering stuff from her basement, trying to get stuff out there. I know that's going to be happening because
I say that if there is a trade that goes down, I will be probably like, all right, I got to pay for the internet and see what's happening here.
I do recall. I don't remember if it was your last cruise or the one before, but you went on a cruise. You were on the cruise for, I think it wasn't even a day. And you're texting me stuff to tweet out, I think, about Jaylen Brown's contract.
Because I could get texts, which was weird. Yeah, Jaylen Brown's contract, and Tosan Awaman signed a camp deal, because that was at the end of the summer that we went on that cruise. So yeah, I'm gonna try my best to do stuff. But I'm kind of looking forward to what did the bottom line say? All right, let me wait 10 minutes for it to
you gotta
back around
to come back.
See what that looks like. Yeah, that'll be fun. I'll be glued to Sports Center highlights and all that. The good news is all the Christmas we're going on a Disney cruise, and they have the ABC, ESPN channels. And so all of the Christmas Day games will be on, because they're all on ABC family and networks throughout the course of the day. So I will be watching the Christmas Day games. Around activities there. So that's nothing new, though.
It's going to be like 1995 all over again, watching that bottom ticker. There you go.
That's it, man. Well, I'm eating my cereal. Supposed to be getting ready to go to school. I'm just watching the bottom line to figure out what happened in sports.
Oh, well, I hope you can indeed disconnect. By the way, we are going to need to do the front office Friday. We'll have to be front office Thursday.
Yep.
Tomorrow we'll do that one. We'll put out there. We will pre-schedule the stream, so you guys will see when we figure out what time we're going to do it at.
Yep.
We're going to have to do our live show tomorrow. I'm going to be traveling a bit. Keith, I know you've got some stuff going on Friday, so we're not going to be able to do that, but we'll do it tomorrow. We'll go live. We'll take all your questions, all your comments, and everything like that.
We'll have our Christmas. That's our Christmas show too.
Right. Let's go.
Christmas come early on Thursday, so we'll do that and watch all that stuff. And then if I'm sure you will do your best. If something breaks while I'm out, and
Yep.
you'll cover it, here and everywhere with that. I might put a post up on the basketball bulletin, just letting people know if you're a reader over there, subscriber, and you follow the NBA game notes, you will get them Friday morning. Because we're back in action with a relatively full slate on Thursday night. There's not going to be anything tomorrow, Thursday during the day, because there's no games tonight. So I'm gonna, get some other things done with that. But I will have a post up Friday, and it'll be back to it on the 26th. When I'm back, or the games from the 26th for the 27th, I should say, is better with that. So yeah, so if it just little change in schedule here, but it's good. It's funny because somebody's like, you're taking like time during the season. It's like I'd rather take time now because I'm not going to take time during the off season because we're way busier then. That's for what a lot of what we are followed for and do. That's more important. So I want to make sure I'm around for those times.
Yep. Yeah, and I'll be off the week of the All-Star break,
and
then probably sometimes toward the end of August or something like that. I'll take a little getaway when we can. Pry ourselves
August
away.
Once we get to August, it's time to shut down. August, first part of September. It's like that's when I'll be sending out my annual. You guys got any recommendations for what came out over the last year on TV that I should check out? Because I don't watch a lot of TV during the year. It's fun. I was a big fan of Yellowstone, and I just since there was one game last night, no games tonight. I just started like getting caught up, but no spoilers to anybody. I know the series just wrapped up this week, but I'm like 3 seasons behind. So I do enjoy it. I'm just like, that's just what happens. And all this stuff falls by the wayside, and it's not a complaint. I'm very, very, very happy, with what we get to do here. So
100%. It's just the small sacrifices that we have to make. That's all. That's all. All right, everybody. Well, make sure you do subscribe to the channel. Turn on those notifications as well, and we'll see you tomorrow for Front Office Thursday, I suppose.
Front Office Friday,
no alliteration, but that's okay. Front Office Friday.
Front Office Friday -1. Right?
If we can have the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim, we can have Front Office Friday on Thursday. Thank you again, everybody. Till next time. See ya and stay safe.